the Israelis, all things being equal, do want the regime gone, but they're mindful of their limitations and constraints. They're also mindful that this is a very large country, geographically and population-wise, somewhere between 90 to 100 million people. The regime has embedded itself over the last nearly 50 years in, all across the country. They may not be a military power overseas, and they may not be able to defend themselves, against Israeli airstrikes and intelligence operations, but they run a pretty effective police state. And so if you look at regime change, the United States recently tried to do it twice, and we failed on both occasions. We didn't fail in sort of toppling the government, removing the government of the time, but then, it was regime collapse, not regime change, not the just change that we desire. Afghanistan and Iraq. Iraq fell into the Iranian orbit and also became a haven for Al-Qaeda, later to become ISIS, and so on and so forth. Afghanistan, we took out the Taliban, and then we left them to them again. So I think the Israelis are mindful of how, and we put in ground forces. So even with ground forces, the United States couldn't accomplish that. I think the Israelis know that this is well beyond their capability. But what they are doing is they are creating the circumstances for a regime, if you will, internal struggle, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think you remember my report from last year in April 2024 called Post-Khamenei, Iran, the Future of Evolutionary Regime Change. So there is an evolutionary regime change taking place and has been in Iran going back 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you notice the targeting so far, this could change, within minutes, given how fast the developments are changing. But so far, we have only seen IRGC commanders being targeted, not the regular armed forces. And the regular armed forces is a parallel institution, numerically much larger than the IRGC, but obviously not with the IRGC's clout, financial, political, etc. And so it seems like they're at least removing people who were ideologically motivated, if you will. And even within the guards, not everybody is at the same level of ideological indoctrination. So I think what they're trying to do here is to force some sort of a behavioral change in this regime. And that obviously happens when new people or new centers of power can, come to the fore. So let's just sort of game it out. I'll put myself out there. This is a national catastrophe for Iran. There have to be people blaming, other people in the regime, within the elite and within the security establishment for leading them down this path. And so if, let's say, things get out of hand, let's say there are protests that start taking place in Iran, let's say that there is internal chaos, then we could see a coup, a coup where, let's just say, the regular armed forces that are not as ideologically conditioned as the IRGC, they, along with some pragmatic elements from the IRGC, basically say, we're declaring a state of emergency in the country, and we're taking over in order to preserve the republic, blah, 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 whatever speech they have to give, they'll give in order to stabilize the situation. So I think that we can expect. How quickly, I don't know, because I don't know what the level of damage has been done to the regime, because this is happening in real time as you and I are having this conversation.